Round here, them guns get the last word.
There's another Reddit post that I want to read. This one is one that we covered before, but back when I first did it, I had the AI, you know, the Microsoft Reader. I had the Microsoft Reader read it to us. And when I uploaded that as a video, everyone was really upset. So I want to do it. Do you guys want to do it again? I kind of want to do it again because that post was so good. This is from 3 months ago. The belief that Tekken 7 was too defensive is what ruined Tekken 8. Tekken 8's vision. Harada's obsession with some T7 top matches were too stale, too much backdashing and spacing, and not enough action and attacking. This observation is fair enough, but what he and other Tekken 7 critics fail to understand is why it was that way. If you try to fix a problem you don't understand, you're gonna send the ship in the wrong direction, which is exactly what happened with Tekken 8. The pros didn't backdash all day or interact less with the opponents in Tekken 7 because it was rewarding or advantageous in it of itself. This is just wrong. Look at Tekken 5 and ask yourself, why is it that they were more aggressive or rather interactive there? Then look at what changes were made from that point on. Where it all started, the crush system got introduced in Tekken 5, which made it easier to be longer on the offensive where you should otherwise let your opponent take their turn because continuing your own offense was too risky. Now you are rewarded to continue your offense if you have the right read. What does this do? If it's too risky for the defender to start their aggression, then they become less aggressive, which in turn makes it less interactive. But okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tekken 5 was very interactive, so that wasn't much of a problem. But I'm mentioning this though because this is where I believe the flawed philosophy started. Like this person says, crushing was introduced in Tekken 5. What I always talk about is heavy guards. Heavy guards was introduced in Tekken 6. Both of those things are core to what issues is plaguing Tekken now, where you have highly aggressive attacks that either has evasion low or high, sometimes even mid evasion, but then on block they impose a heavy guard. A heavy guard is basically when you're negative but you look like you're positive. This tricks the punisher, this tricks the player into not attacking. The developers did that because they think it makes the gameplay more interesting. I think it makes the gameplay more dumb, because why are you basically tricking players? That's literally what Harada said. Harada said he does this because instead of just properly punishing with the normal attack, let's say someone does, you know, a death fist. A death fist is launch punishable. But Harada thinks it would be boring if everyone punished the death fist with a launch punisher. He specifically said when you put a heavy guard on it, some people will punish with a grab. Some people will punish by just trying to poke and take their turn. Some people will do the proper punish. So this is what I highlight when people say these guys are scrubs and why aren't you punishing? You have to keep in mind that the developers put mechanics in this game to deceive players, right? And that's the example from Harada. He would want you to punish something with a grab instead of a proper launch. Heavy guard. That's why it's so flawed. That's why I hate it. But let's keep going. Tekken 6 and the dawn of a lot of new mechanics. Then when you get homing moves that make moves scarier, bounds made combos longer, and more damaging combos, the opponent now suddenly ends up in an extremely advantageous position if they get launched. Not only does it do more damage to get launched, but they are now more often carried to the wall where they can hit the wall and are susceptible to 50-50s. This makes whiffing extremely scary, so now you have to do more small pokes instead so you don't risk getting launched as easily. Not only that, rage is introduced, so now that the guy that's been losing thus far gets access to an extreme comeback mechanic to threaten you with, which not only reduces skill gap, but also further lessens the interaction when rage is active. So that's an interesting part, and I spoke to a pro who highlighted this, how when they added the concept of rage, you do more damage when your health is low. Tekken 6 players hated that. And even when Tekken 6 players hated that, I mean, we're still dealing with that today in Tekken 8. And, you know, of course, it reduces the skill gap. This is something that Tekken has. You have a lot of good players, very few bad players. But when you talk about all of those bad players making up the majority of the player base, what skill gap are you trying to reduce? But then also, if you talk about, you know, movement, moving around is scarier when you have combos that will clip you, do big damage, right? This is all This is basically offense getting stronger in subtle ways over multiple iterations of the game. Tekken 6 also introduced Lars and Alyssa who can neutral skip. This means they have moves that make playing neutral easier. Because it's baked into some of their moves, instead of having you need to space your moves to not get whiffed, punish. Okay, so I'm assuming this person is saying that you normally would need to space to not get whiff punish, but those characters allow you to basically do that because they have built-in movement. Or have a read when the opponent is going to bait you or rush you down. You can now, with certain moves, very safely just throw stuff out at range 2-3 because they are approaching tools. And think about all of the approaching tools that Tekken 8 have. I mean, one of the most frustrating attacks for me in the whole game is Victor's pistol. That is a full screen approaching tool. You don't need to space, time, or do anything. Victor shoots his pistol, and on block, he gets a mix-up. Yes, you can try to challenge him. Yes, you could try to move or sidestep and all of that stuff, but that's good players who would do that. The average player will get hit by that and will have to just guess. And it's a lot of things like that in this game where the game just covers the distance. It engages for you. Still, this is only a rather small part of Tekken, and even though some new mechanics of Tekken 6 were heavily criticized by part of the community, that's something I just talked about, Tekken 6 is still much played like Tekken game in terms of neutral and rewarding legacy, skill, and knowledge. That being said, I think you can see where things is going. Yeah. Tekken 7 and competitive staleness. So now you're in Tekken 7 and combos do even more damage and you end up at the wall in almost every wall stage if you get launched. Even if you're at the complete opposite of the stage, this leads to fast counter hit tools being extremely scary, so you don't want to use big moves. And the combo damage on low parries are so big that it's scary to open up your opponents. Oki is also scarier, DLC strings make side walking scarier, guard breaks appear, flying through the air with some BS from 10 miles away is more rampant. You get more neutral skip characters like Noctis, Kuni, Rage is stronger than Rage Drive, movement is weaker, and they adopt 2D characters. What does this do? This is a very good breakdown, which is why I wanted to revisit it again, because it gives you a very detailed explanation of how Tekken has changed through the iterations. You're looking at good old-fashioned anime power creep. Anime power creep in the game that is Tekken, where offense have become stronger and stronger and stronger. It's better to attack, but also it's not better to attack because if you attack at the wrong time, your opponent will kill you. Well, now that we made it even scarier to interact, especially when someone's in rage, because if you get clipped, then you're screwed. At least half of your health bar, if not the whole, in certain circumstances, is gone. And you're at the wall where you can't backdash, and it's super scary to sidewalk because of homing wall splatting moves that end up in a wall combo and scary Oki. So if you can't sidewalk at the wall, then you just stand there instead, which of course makes it extremely susceptible to 50-50s. Are you having fun yet? The hardcore community was talking about these things even in podcasts. There's been constructive feedback about the same problems we have today, readily available to anyone who looked for it since Tekken 6 at least. So when you talk about the developers listening to criticism, this stuff has existed for, going all the way back to Tekken 6, where people talked about these mechanics. Rage, combo damage, combo travel, and the fact that we're still dealing with it in Tekken 8, and Tekken 8 has given us the most egregious version of it yet. I mean, this kind of speaks to the developers not necessarily listening to the players and continuing with their own vision, knowingly or unknowingly. Do you see what happened? The reason Tekken 7 got stale is not because of defense was too strong. It was because making a mistake was extremely scary. You whiff, you die. You try opening up your opponent with lows and got a bit too predictable. Shouldn't have done that. Or try to end the round when the opponent is rage. Not smart. So what happens? The players have to respect the risk so that they just defend instead of this. How many times have you guys been playing Tekken 8 where someone gets in heat and they have rage and now you're really scared to attack them? You can kill them with like a couple of pokes, but they're standing there with a full bar of heat, and they're in rage. And you think, like, if I attack this guy, he can either counter hit me or he could rage art. And then if he rage arts, he's going to gain life from that, but also he's going to do a big portion of my life. And then he's going to activate his heat, and the match is going to be pretty even, right? That's what this is talking about, is how like all of these mechanics make you scared to close out the match. This is completely different problems than defense is too strong. Players were too afraid of attacking in Tekken 7. Combos were scary that they turned into very poke heavy game. And mechanics like rage, crushing, and armor moves makes it so risky to interact when you have the life lead. That's just not smart move, especially when they are in rage. From my own personal experience, characters where this came through a lot is like Brian Fury and Katarina. Those two characters were really fun and fair to fight against as Tekken 7 started, but at the end of Tekken 7, I absolutely despised both of those characters because attacking them was so harsh. Counter hits everywhere, big combos everywhere. It was just, they just turned into, the power creep was so vivid for those characters. So much so to where at the start of Tekken 7, no one used Katarina. At the end, the final tournament of Tekken 7 was won by Arsenal and Ash using Katarina. That's literally the power creep of that character. Now I hear you say, but Tekken 7 was really great games though. And you're right, it was, but the problems didn't get patched in Tekken 8, they got way worse. It's the same problems from Tekken 6, just amplified by a magnitude so big that there's no neutral anymore. Tekken 8 is a continuation of the bad game design that started around Tekken 6. Tekken 8, the devs said they wanted the game to be more fun on the aggressive. This is a completely outrageous and ignorant. Not only do they not understand their own game, they don't understand how to make it interesting and fun gameplay. They obviously suck at the game design. They have tempered the core balance of the game so much that you don't have fair interactive play anymore. It's gone from a skill-based game rich in legacy and knowledge to a ton of different characters' identities, guessing games, and that's too complex to be a party game and too dumbed down, unfair, and unfun to be a fighting game worth anyone's time in the long run. This person popped off right here. You could definitely tell this was the start of season 2. If this person typed this again, maybe this paragraph here will be a little bit different. But it's facts though, right? I think that Tekken is more fun the less knowledge checks you encounter. I know Tekken is full of knowledge checks, but with how frequent knowledge checks exist in terms of 50-50s, like even though everyone's celebrating Fakuram, that is a knowledge check character. When he's doing that, those guard break loops and guard break mix-ups, that's 50-50s and that's knowledge checks. That kind of gameplay is just exhausting, repetitive, and also it is deadly to anyone new to the franchise. And not even new to the franchise, just the average player. Harada and critics of Tekken 7 in particular have completely missed the mark on what they saw in T7. You don't want aggression, you want interaction, which you get if you balance defense with aggression well. And if you focus only on defense or aggression, then you lose the interaction between players. And that's takes the fun out of the game, which is what we're seeing in a depressed player base. They're simply not having fun. The way forward. This is why people are dooming. Launch Leroy was a disaster, but the problem could theoretically be patched out in one single patch. You can't just patch out an out-of-touch vision that's been infiltrating the game for decades so easily. They could revert Season 2, and we would have something that isn't as bad as it is right now, but if they keep their vision of aggression play, homogenizing characters and removal of character identity and dumbing down the game, which removes skill expression, removing legacy mechanics and knowledge, and making it easier for noobs to win against veterans, then it's just always going to move from what made Tekken great. I would like for them to get rid of heavy guards, but that's probably not going to happen. We would like to see them cut down on evasion, but that's probably not going to happen. The heavy guards and evasion is just as baked into the game as the electric at this point. The only thing that could save Tekken is for Bandai Namco to realize their vision has ruined the series, to change course and start focusing on balance between defense and offense instead of aggression. A part of me believes that this is what they really wanted to do. They just don't understand how to get there because their blindness and ignorance. And if you talk about, because this was made 3 months ago, so we have a lot of things that happened since then. And if you talk about how the developers apologized, they rearranged the team, and then they put out a very good update, which is Fakuram. They're moving in the right direction, right? So it is interesting how the players were putting out all of this great feedback, and the players have a very good understanding of what's happening in Tekken on many different levels. But then you also see that the Tekken developers are starting to understand too. And that's why I'd be so positive now, because like, you know, all of the rants and frustration that I was putting out, I feel like they understand now, and I feel like they get it now. And I feel like now we can we don't really have to criticize them anymore. Yes, we still want to, give feedback and guide and whatnot, but we don't really need to be on their necks anymore, you know?